Sanje Chetan Soje Jonan La Sanjo Parda Dana Jatsa Dage Jenso Jembe Sonan Je Dola Benzara Sanje Gabayo.
Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings.
Ma Nam Ka Dan Nyam Be Sem Je Dan Je Deva Dan Deve Je Dan Demba Je Je Dong A Da Dong A Je Je Dan Dawa Je Je Dong A Me Be Deva Wa Je 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 Ren Cho Dan Je Dan Je Dan Nyo La Deva Je Je.
May all mothers, sentient beings, limitless as space, happiness and the causes of happiness, may they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Ma le lo ye lan de bu la na de ye do go tu je zong de so da le long je do ba jian jie da po ga jian jie da ye de mai zong ye mo bo je de de ga ba je dan de ye wa sen je lo đại miền tha lệ yong rồi kẻ thiên ca nê sơn đô quan đại chế chế minh sinh lên đền nê lôi minh đền dù phê bê soạn chế thô bà sinh chế lô.
An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents and the wealth of infinite oceans of realms. If I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold with compassion all the beings they contain. My body, enjoyments, and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine, by offering them all, may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping. Completely liberated from the bounds of real and unreal, transcending the names and concepts of arising, cessation, and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial. The supreme mandala is the natural state. By offering it, may I be blessed to attain the state of Buddhahood.
Om Guru Devanda Ganarana Manda Padeda So Namo Nase Namdai Damala Nase Yayan Sa Chobamba Kansa Yanda Da Sovanda Kova Tondo Sa Chenje Lo Ye Ge Nova Toge Je Asan Jime Jare To Chimbe Ye Ge Nadan De Seve Danje Doa Jumze Ramboje Da Semye Jengane Sorwande Chinye Jengande Senje Lo Sendene Jeme Nandande Londe Jegado Senje Lo.
Namo to the Guru, the utter purity of all appearance and existence. I offer all appearance and existence, arisen as the primordial ground. I supplicate you, may the 3 realms be completely liberated. Please grant blessings to empty samsara from its depths. Lord, with 5 omniscient wisdoms, crown ornament, kind one with loving nature, precious protector of beings, heart of all Buddhas, inexpressible by words or thought, I supplicate you from the core of my mind. Bless me from within the state of Dharmata. Bless me to realize this mind, primordially pure and unborn, as the unfathomable Dharmakaya.
Sanje Nanje Sambada Loye Zeda Jeda Chechen Dhamma Devaye Chechen Kolo Gode So.
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma, the greater and lesser vehicles, and the teachings common to both, according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Go on the way. Hello? Okay?
Okay.
Ninja Tempo Sole Nimba Shengo Zone Mola Jimbo Ngajada Bekrada Ngansin de Sermado Temba Tuje Jina Grusanza Ono Ma Jinjan Toling the Sism de Mema Bimam Jong Sanje Kunjan to the Pideba Son Trombe Magara Grusanza Drpa Bola Chuyen de Badang Kurwan de Betin Rogayimba Hamjie Jancho Lam Lang Gunze Benyam Ye Jancho Semla Gus Bodin Chang the Rola Roda Mama Gambo Pardon Jitingo Garden Sinde Zavala Mecha Tajula Maya Dan Juzon La Suranda Sodas Du Sinjelo Show Menji Janja Polande the Sum Sanje Gunjang Onyeran Sam Jukung Sodan Zebe Zavala Mecha La Sorvande Sisum Donga Jindra Chijin Chin Yatome Ponjavra Jula So Simjin Tongla Nirda Danchina Tamba Namje Nimte Tardoso Chila Tejo Sovata Bentu Dakso Kangda Nebe Sapsonde Nemsu Mege Karba Junje Ne Chula Dahim Bavaranze Doso Dakson Robalona Chula Jurnelo Jula Jewar Chenje Wallace, that rain. Madorwanam Towarsipe. Chi Damba Samo. Mubian. And there is anything I'm used to Pem Kintang, that Rajak Juni. Yakam Damin, Yamuna King, Kudopomo, Yonsu Zopa La. You need to do some the Tahi de Letan, Symbolic, Yaps.
And so today, continuing with the teachings, the liberating teachings that liberate those not yet liberated, and being of the profound, sublime category of the actual practice. To all of you who are here, or the main part, to all of you who are here in person, and all of you who have joined us from all over the world and different countries. Tashi Delek, to all of you from within the three times.
All of that in Ni tampe chu samo te tu sam gom som ang ka yin chang la kun long tang kun ju ka ran ba ta so kha chang dor di ba sa po chi shu yu te yan jar sar tap tren yan jar shu mo go ach te sar tam ni se ro yes.
And so while engaging in the practices of sublime Dharma, the practice of study or hearing, contemplation, and meditation, the proper stages and practices for establishing the pure motivation and the proper conduct were explained in detail yesterday. And so today there's no need to go over that all again, but cultivating these proper motivations and conducts, please listen to the teachings.
Yorwa semji nubjimikpami gila ngove yongsu simba nam. Halam dripe tipa nam somye son dita tamba sumde. Okay, chimbores, the sosande rochi.
The Longchenpa ki
Longchenpa, ya,
Jorwa.
ya, yorwa semji nubjimikmi jong hoa tamba sumde. Halam dripe tipa nam somye son de. Tamba somsene yorwa yorngji somsene katan shuimba.
Halam gare.
Halam drupe tipa namsa tapa lam la drogona ini tepe kechembo yes.
And so, as the omniscient Longchenpa has said, the Bodhichitta at the outset, non-conceptuality or non-referentiality during the main practice or during the main part, and the conclusion of perfect dedication. For those who are practicing the path to awakening, these are utterly crucial. So it is always important to make sure that we are practicing Dharma with the three excellences present, with the seal of the three excellences.
Well, that in the tambo tela, Jobanji Pinsungo, Tipa Chechong Chepa, Semji, Tipa Chembo, Natona, La Part, Sanga Dorje Tipa, Yamselin King, Yentang, Nitin, the Jimpin Sancho, Chod, Semji Guet, the Kechimbo.
And so also, as Lord Jigten Sumgun has said, the difference or that which differentiates between the greater and lesser vehicles is the mind of bodhicitta. And so practicing Vajrayana secret mantra, it is absolutely crucial that we generate the mind focused on the welfare and benefit of others, that we arouse the mind of bodhicitta.
At the end, you tell us, Ona, Goa Majuna, Sadanya, the same thing, Hamchi, forward, Dunhachi Jam So Chimpon, there is. Lutang, same niche, Dikpat and Dripa, or Chatan Chipa, Janne, Yomdin the Par Dorji Simbe, Pompanglango Par, Ja, Seattle, Sotambo, Hindu Namipa.
And so, with the aspiration to free all mother sentient beings without exception from the vast ocean of suffering that is the torment of samsara, in order to purify the doors of body, speech, and mind, all of the defilements and aspirations and obscurations, with this agenda in mind, and the agenda to place all sentient beings in the state of unsurpassed awakening, the level of the transcendent conqueror Vajrasattva, then it is with that attitude that we shall practice Vajrasattva. So that is then having both of the aspects of bodhicitta present, the wisdom directed toward awakening and compassion directed towards sentient beings.
Tati Chetos, Semjin Tam Jej, Young Benelo Go, the Mahip one case, Nitlinki Kipata, Kuntap, Marepa Niki. That Lucem Ni, Drep de Yores, Tati Drepa Nite, Tang Pakchatan Tipa, Yom Serta. Nitumba Sanji Jomdin de Chupong Jeti Yetong the Nancy. Sangha Dorje Tipa the Chu. Nitumdin de Par Dorje Center. Kati Samon the Hyone, Don Yamseling the Yin Samyati, Sonny Pachirab the Zozan. What it is.
And so then, in order to accomplish that, as all sentient beings do not realize the true essence of their own awareness, the fundamental ground that is the true nature, due to the defilements or the obscurations of co-emergent ignorance and imputing ignorance or unawareness, as their bodies and minds are obscured by the coarse afflictive emotions and the karmic imprints or the latent imprints, then it is in order to clear away these defilements that we shall practice the profound secret mantra Vajrakhana, which is within the 84,000 categories of Dharma taught by the Buddha. And so listening to these profound teachings, then we also engaging in the practice, following that, really engaging in the practice, putting what we have learned into practice, then we have the aspiration then to practice and thereby reach the state of fully perfected awakening for the benefit of all beings.
Alles. Ati train di kacang. Ngacu tambe samu. Nyanselin kapsul lunga yisum gevala kuru labdita lunga yisum ne tanden betul gevala kuru siate. Atela train lukene nampan hamze chudun siatang ngakene lungo gupro sia.
Ngakine gare?
Lungro go trup. Lung ro long chok pa go ta.
Okay.
Drupon lak song ma do wete.
Patia hakuma song kunta.
Olas. On dordina luta ngate ke ramji. O te sia la.
Oh yeah.
O te sama zo mandrike tren shuge ni pache su da ya ke ba yu. Pache chik sene shi jure ma shile mambo yu sigere wa.
That's all. And so today, then as we continue these teachings on the profound Dharma, we left off yesterday in establishing the three abodes, the proper abode of body, speech, and mind. And that involves, inciting or turning the three doors toward virtue through finding the proper abode. So the first being the abode of the body, as was said yesterday, is establishing the posture, the 7-point posture of Vyrochana. And then secondly, establishing the abode of speech is in doing the 9 rounds of breathing to dispel the stale winds. And so for some of you, you are already familiar with this, but there may be some who are not.
Of course. Okay, tambo. Lune namnan chubdun telas. So su yuksa ke deinte gangtana lepo to gogres. I lutela tani number namze ke chudun siate. Esendu. Tati lula number namze ke chudun siate ke lepo Grâce calete hiyo mare ser gupa dan jimsi mambo yo stini tempo kesho tento.
And so first, with regard to the posture, the 7-point posture of Vyrochana, this begins with, having a comfortable seat on the floor to, rest upon, to sit upon in a way that you can easily assume the 7 points. And when the 7 points are properly assumed, it actually should be comfortable and an easy posture for the body. It doesn't actually cause the body any strain or difficulty. And so there are many reasons and benefits for associated with this posture.
Ta tambo tela tani kangba dorje chudum la du kangba dorje chudum cha tne ya bo they matana young, they are also there, you know, so you don't just. Young Kamba and that they were men, in Jimmy Kamba. You don't take home, I could chat with them and the yes. A Kamba doji, you don't the Jena Carapingos, na Lubola, Ramji, automatic, root, Chula yes.
Gandela?
Wam. Kamba doji, you don't Jena, true, the Ramji, Hakoson Wam. Cottage, the Portian, yes.
And so the first of these 7 points is to assume the Vajra posture with the legs. So to fold the legs in the Lotus or Vajra position. If you cannot sit with your legs folded in the Lotus posture or Vajra position, then you don't have to force it. So you can either sit with your legs comfortably crossed or, so it isn't, you want to do what is comfortable. So if you can comfortably sit, or if you can kind of ease yourself gradually into sitting with your legs in the Lotus posture, then this is good. But if you can't, then you shouldn't force it. You shouldn't make yourself uncomfortable. It's also okay to sit in a chair if this is better for you. But if you can sit with your legs folded in the Vajra position, the benefit of this is that it naturally assists in causing some warmth to accumulate in the body.
Gartsik datar tampur sang gartsik de tampun data was tampur sang gores epeke body e sang na gare pento yoresna long the sama long soso ke sacha soso or slept to gores there to gores.
And so then the second and very important point of the 7 points is to have a completely straight spine so that the spine of your body is fully erect, completely straight. And the benefit of this is that then it allows for the winds to move freely and easily so that the winds can go to their respective places in each part of the body.
Symbolic, Lagpa, Eva, Somo Yak, Eva, and Somo Yak water. Yam Yak Saja, Obamin, Raba Yuma, Shap, Eva Gang, Teoni, Chotum, Yam Jasaja, Ambarja. Ye Gares Usna, here or the Za, some follow you can do not know. Oh, there you buy Yenzang, then it's a card, go see, open. Siata, Sa card say on a Devachi, Rambotek, Nibatek, Devachi, and I shall go out some of Honda.
So then the third point is the position of the hands. So the hands can be in the gesture of meditative equipoise and for finger widths, resting 4 fingerlets below the navel. So the gesture of equipoise is with your left hand below, the right hand on top, and then the thumbs resting against one another. And then resting in your lap at that point 4 finger widths below the navel. And the benefit of this is that even if it's like pressing in there, because this is the point where the 2 side channels connect into the central channel. So it is like the meeting point of the 3 channels and the 4 chakras. And so it has this effect of opening all of the channels, which allows bliss to arise. So the first point being that it enables for, or the first 2 enable for the warmth to generate in the body, and also then for this enables for bliss to be generated in the body.
Wow. Jibatla, Pumba, any Chaki Shopana, you tambo pa, young, a young. Any day until young demon pa, Rajin. Lugores. Eke caresna, then it long and nata so. Chonlores.
And so then the fourth point is that the shoulders are kind of lifted and back and kind of like extended, sort of like you see with a bird and its wings. Sometimes when the wings are kind of lifted up, not like extended out when they're flying, but like lifted up, I think is what he means. Rebe, rebe. And the example that he's showing there, and so the benefit of this is that it affects the winds in such a way that it diminishes like ailments and imbalances in the body.
Napatella Remba the Catalan Isma Congo. They mat is going Nink Zada, open sin, Nink Zada Yan Tin. In Nink Zada go Sena, the Nam taught me the same, or some sour yes. And the Tambo Deva, Tambo, Drew, Nibate, Deva, somebody, Sarwas, Nam taught me the same in the Savo Yorwa.
So Gongtanga Jason the Dampo de or Nipa de Drew Rebe.
Ambo Kamba Doji Chiton take a true young horror.
Okay.
Oh, Nibati Karesina Sajati, they all yoke that take a Sama go send the Devachi Hura. Tata take a Nam Tomi the same Ying Zat, the Ying Zat go send the Nam Tomi the same sorrow, the child. True Deva Sarwa.
So then the fifth point is that the chin is slightly tilted down. And the benefit of this is that it has the benefit of opening the heart center, opening the heart. And this enables for the pacification of thoughts and concepts so that the mind becomes very bright or very clear. And so the first one then has the benefit of generating warmth, the legs folded in the Vajra position. The straightness of the spine has the benefit of generating bliss. And the chin slightly tilted down has the benefit of generating clarity, or the sort of.
Olas. Drupate, Kat Dangmando. Dang de Yakan and Bonam similar. Come to or a car. Dang de Yakan Bonan and June Jimare. Long show Chimbo and walk out. Cut down, cut some cut the soma toes, the Nikkei the Jet, the Yakina Yago. They Janakara Pentos, the Gomja, they got the car Kangamare. Car down, the Nikkei is a car coming down.
So then the sixth is the position of the mouth. So the mouth is not it's not open. You don't want to have an open mouth because then bugs might fly into your mouth, mosquitoes. And then, but you also don't have the mouth completely closed. You have it somewhere between closed and open. And as it is in this sort of position between closed and open, just lightly closed, then the tongue is resting on the palate. And the benefit of the tongue resting on the palate is that the mouth then doesn't dry out. It helps to keep the mouth from becoming dry.
Make it chimbo Dana, slow in Ramadan Tong, the young Chadang, where you want on the chat, the one on the down. We make some then the young Malam Yoga, Nico, then they make things a ghost in Nak Solomon attack with Jimmy Tan Tongo Mareo. Not Tongo and the soul, but the soul keeps on yoring as so so the young Kangayo. Then Nak sold the direction nas the face that they seem to take a cara pinto yorisina, make my caress in at Nipe Saro. 차고 요레스.
Then the seventh point is the eyes, the gaze. So the gaze is not directed in front of you, looking out. If we're looking out, then what happens is we see many things. We see objects with the eyes, and then we give rise to attachment to those things that we perceive as desirable, and aversion to those things we perceive as undesirable. So to avoid the phenomena of attachment and aversion, we keep the gaze cast downward, lightly off the tip of our nose. And we don't close the eyes. If we close the eyes, then this sometimes can cause sleepiness. It might cause you to fall asleep. So the gaze is cast downward off the tip of the nose, not looking at the nose, and so that your eyes are not cross-eyed, but it's cast downward off of the tip of the nose. And this helps also when we're visualizing to assist in the clarity or the vividness of the visualization.
Tati dun tela ne lutang semni nyampola pa jen tesena pa dewa tan tu da mi ba kare sena te jopo la gores te namban hamze ke chudun da chan chin ha ko so.
And so when the body and the mind is united in this way through assuming the 7-point posture, Vyrochana, then there's a really great benefit even through the assistance of the posture in quickly generating warmth, quickly generating bliss, quickly generating clarity. And so these are some of the benefits of the 7-point posture.
Hi. Ni pate que tenía ya ni batela ngane lunglo go pros nga ne nga chang ma da nga ke ran yin de gores.
And so then the second, establishing the abode of the speech, is first through the 9 rounds of breathing to expel the stale winds. And so this also begins with sort of bringing the mind inward, directing the mind inward.
Tela ni lute namban hamze chuden dita nyamyat saja de pa chegor also.
So with as you were sitting in the 7-point posture and you began with your hands in the gesture of meditative equipoise like this, then you open your hands this way.
That open
and then you turn your hands inward and sort of circle like that, just as Rinpoche demonstrated. And then you put the thumb at the joint of your ring finger on both hands. And the reason for this is because on your right hand, this is where there dwells the channel of compassion. And on your left, this is the channel of wisdom. So the fingers are really actually very profound, very important.
Right?
So we also, here we also consider it to be a very important point, because if you get married, then as a representation of your love, you put a ring, of precious metals, of gold or silver on this ring finger, the joint of your ring finger on this channel of compassion.
Okay, that is it. In those and
then having done that, then you take your 3 fingers, excluding your pointer finger, and you bend the 3 fingers over your thumb like this, making the gesture of the Vajra fist. And so you want your one open because it has work to do. So then you do this gesture. that he's demonstrating.
That is luck.
And so then
Shirapta hinge ke meba zogo mato chiran tratso dong zona dogmare site shirapta hinge ko ma nemne meba zogores.
And so then you bring your Vajra fist down to the joint between your thigh bone and your hips, and you're pressing down on those channels. And those channels are the channels of the afflictive emotions. And so essentially what we're doing is we are cutting off the channels of afflictive emotions with wisdom and compassion, because the only thing that can dispel the afflictive emotions are wisdom and compassion. We can't, cut it away with a knife. We can't, beat it into submission. The only thing that we can do is pacify it through wisdom and compassion. And also you want your arms to be completely straight like that. It's not, you don't want to be kind of lazy and loose like he showed you before, but like this, completely straight.
See? Yeah. That and this it's a decale lakpat la gani ma puhogana ma igor de nyomo bataso ma puhogana ma yog nerosena. Mikbatanda sigor.
Gongda.
La gani ma saja the truth ma di rata nyomo batana yora. And Hirapta hinge ke nyomo basalo pasa yog.
So if you can see here so now you're rubbing it up the leg, right? And so what you can think of it is, again, like wisdom and compassion is cleaning out or sweeping out the afflictive emotions, the winds of the afflictive emotions.
Those here, you can move to here.
And then you change your mudra so that the pointing fingers are now pointing out.
Okay.
So you can see that now with his hands resting on his knees, the pointer finger is pointing outward. You should sit very beautifully and impressive like a lion.
Okay.
And so then you slowly raise the two fists. And then you do this mudra. And then go like that.
And so
the mudra is moving toward you. And so with your right finger, you're blocking your left nostril. I sort of missed that, but he said maybe first you need to blow your nose. It might be helpful to clean out your nose first so that you don't make a mess.
Well, that doesn't it. That's a so you
do want to, of course, blow out all of the afflictive emotions, but you also, might want to avoid getting all of the things in front of you dirty with snot.
Okay. Now ye man long yan ting or Kale Jambo ting the Tinyampul Mikpas in the grass long tia marimba. Chanje dance Jancho Samba Tamjik, two get and Chinlap, any Chelokun, Yuak, long Zamate, Kado Kapu Nabaya. Eh, Tani ma tewa wala ma ngop gang sin ma kang. Ma kang tani ni patram gor. Ta lu cha som kholo ye lu pa chama la patram. Ngop tang gang dang jir. O tanda patram. Te tam sarjila. Tani lakwa saja de yo ja gor ro sin. Ro do. Nga nga so tro chorde sin ba. A tro pa de go pa sel. Thì nào ye mà thì cái ngọc chara thì cái ye mà ngã mà nem cả cái này anh làm cho giải ở mà đó cái này thế chấp gì là cái này số sự lựa chọn mà tam gia cho thì chốt tiền thì nó thao yêu mà anh mà tăng gọi nem rồi này gì tăng bộ cái này xin là cái chụp chim bộ xin cái đó xin mà tăng thế tăng cái số mình bắt thế là Ramji semjin tham je kitni lula nacha semna donga samba pache tang dikpa drapa yongsu zopa long napo ko naba la pa pensong samne o mi pa te sigures.
So then first, what you are when you begin first breathing in, so you're blocking first your so moving like that, then gong that. So tampo di chiro no tampo. So as you're blocking then your left nostril and you're breathing in through the right, and as you breathe deeply and slowly, a deep full breath filling your whole body, and you're not just breathing in sort of for the heck of it without any without any consciousness of what you're doing, but what you should visualize is that as you breathe in, you're breathing in all of the blessings and qualities, the compassion and awakened qualities of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And you can think that you're breathing this in like white light, like a white colored sort of wind or light. It's fully filling you completely and going down to rest below the navel. And as it fills, you can think that it's permeating all of your channels and chakras, the 3 channels and the 4 chakras. And then once you have filled with this light of blessings, then you change. And as you did the movement, the circular movement in one direction, this time you do it in the opposite direction and you change the nostrils that you're blocking. And so you're breathing out now of your left nostril. And as you breathe out, you can visualize that what you are dispelling is all of the defilements and obscurations of yourself and all sentient beings in the form of a sort of dark, smoky or black wind that is fully leaving your body, pushing out the defilements and obscurations of yourself and all beings. And so then you put both of your hands on your knees and then you switch and you do the reverse with the different
All started yela chick yona chick o te senandhu yela som senandhu.
So you can do this in rounds of like 1 round each or 3 rounds each. So you can do, the right once and the left once, or you can do the right 3 times and the left 3 times.
Oh, that did you let me some at the Tuhogala Yanjar Ya. Nin how you got ya, not Mikpachiba, the name of Gang, the nit that some pata sum follow you on Ni sortes in the how you can and long carbon nabo number. Right, Tibo my embassy time take another digger party, but the long nabo mama, Tonson stand. Oh, maybe to go great, if my some scenery takes in a social purpose.
And sorry, I forgot to mention before, he said the shape of your exhalation is like in the shape of a grain, like a grain of barley or something. So that's kind of the shape of the exhalation. And then once you have done the left and the right, you take both of hands in the Vajra fist, resting them on your knees. And you do the same thing, this time breathing through both nostrils and also expelling or exhaling through both nostrils. And with the same visualization, again, when you're breathing in, you're breathing in this kind of white light-like wind that is the essence of the blessings and qualities of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, fully filling all of your channels and chakras. And then when you breathe out, again, you're visualizing the wind that you're expelling and taking on a sort of dark or black form. And this, then you can think all of the defilements and obscurations, not just of oneself, but for all sentient beings, mother and father sentient beings. I am fully expelling. I am, may all of the defilements and obscurations be thoroughly expelled and purified. And so then you fully exhale in this way. And again, you can do rounds, 1 round each, meaning the right, left, and both, or you can do 3 rounds each, depending on, whatever you prefer.
That's it. Fujichi. And Sapo Chando and Dumada rain to Hadana Sonochi.
Lasso, Tuchino.
Yeah, Tati Yilam Tinika Lutang Natani, Ramjin, Zangmata, Ramjin Toloya. And in Sumba the Semke, Ne Delata, Katan Huang, Jarbotav, Johatav, Zo Yagatav, and some the Hutan and Tachumuko, Zo Yagana Yink. Kuno Mageva the so. Bang. Luma tinte so yaga so jur you ni gave kunonta zo yaga na yin trosina take ni sem zangma cha yores semgranji nelo zangma the tourist.
And so this then establishes the proper abode of the body, the proper abode of the speech, and then yesterday, we also discussed the proper abode of the mind, and that was explained in terms of the 3 levels of bodhicitta. So the attitude that is like a king, the attitude that is like a captain, and the attitude that is like a shepherd. So among these different levels of attitude, the best is the attitude of a shepherd. So making an effort to abandon whatever impure motivations that might be lingering. And if you have a neutral motivation, making sure to transform that, to improve that, and to cultivate the best of these motivations, virtuous motivations, which is the shepherd-like motivation of bodhicitta.
Voilà. Palunga is some zangma, dig a tonic, Nubika. Yadam la gongore. Ella Nitara Tamba Songana, Yola Senti Tamba, the songs in it. Any part give a Mugimi Tambal. And Ella gave it Zawa des in Yumumba, Namtok, Mashikba, the main tella, Mugimi Tamba, Young Sang La.
And so then, having established these abodes of body, speech, and mind as the pure motivation at the outset. So in terms of the 3 excellences, we've established the first, which is sealing with the pure motivation at the outset or in the beginning. And then the second of the 3 excellences, which is the maintaining the non-referentiality during the main part or the main practice, or it could be also explained as non-distraction during the main practice. So that means, being fully focused on the generation stage, generating yourself in the form of the Yidam deity. And so having first generated bodhicitta as the first excellence, then we establish non-referentiality or non-distractedness during the main part. And so that means being single-pointed in our pursuit and our effort of whatever roots of virtue it is that we are applying ourselves in during the course of the main practice. And so this is what is meant by sustaining non-distraction during the actual practice as the second of the three excellences.
Hotel to song Tachik and Tetan this year. Then rap that's all Saja Chimbo, Zopa Chimbo, Woma Chimbo, Sayad. Oh, take it Tabat and the unit, Garang and the go, Smipa Meba, only Jatawa Zambo. Then Garang and the go. So Jayuna Samba Chick, Ishikundos, young Tetar Mato, but that's empty and Yura, as I let Ambo, but then oh, take up sooner, then should drip a capsule. Lord in a mying pan, a Sanjay Kunja Lam, Sem Yin and Mayangba. Make that say, Jigata, like Jerem Gongora, Jerem the Gom, the Tick Gila, burnt in Yata, Danyat and Gomia, Ja, Yampulanazo, the movie that they were Nazi. What? Tale, the Bayan, the part that in the Timachil, Karakabo. Tale, the Bayan, the Tombani, the Ni Hong, that in the Tema, that was in the Bayan Dogo. What and does go with this?
And so this second of the three excellences is practiced at whatever level is appropriate for the individual, because as the Buddha's teachings are so manifest in whatever way is necessary according to the dispositions of sentient beings. And so the most excellent way to practice this second excellence of the non-referentiality is by abiding in the meditation or realization of Mahamudra, whether we refer to it as Mahamudra, Dzogchen, or Madhyamaka, to abide within the recognition of the ultimate meaning, to abide within the realization of emptiness. The primordial awareness in which everything is liberated upon arising. But if this isn't possible for those who are not yet at that stage, for beginners on the path, then rather than it becoming non-referentiality that is sustained or the realization of emptiness, instead it is undistracted concentration. So to have single-pointed attention given to the practice. So, for instance, to not become distracted, but to visualize single-pointedly. So this is what we would be doing in the context, for instance, of the generation stage. Also, in the beginning, it is really difficult to get a full visualization of the deity. So instead, sometimes it's advisable to go slowly, gradually through the progressive stages of the visualization. So for instance, from within the state of emptiness, then there arises the lotus and moon disk, and on top of that, then there arises the hung syllable, and so on and so forth. So in this way, we can move the attention to the different aspects of the visualization slowly and sort of little by little.
Well, the charisma, the penas, Leka Hik seeking Bacapsa, Leka legging Bacapder, Sem dan Lotte kicked the Leka the Sena, Leka the Yapot and Sarot and said them by this. That him and the Tinite. Lost some chick the mother, non-terminable in the Yigatin Dragon. Patel Pyonjok na kare song listen. Sem song Tryok Mato, but Tryok Mampuche Hisas. Sem song yada, Sem Kunyum, but Patriata, Liquilam Shuya Temato, Penny Hinda Triata, Shuya Mambo, Carapinto Yomares, Northern Sem song, Sem Teleope, Nimomba, Triata, Liquilam the Chu, Yantabulam Shuya. Yes.
Chunjok nangla gande song do de tata.
Samsung Tryok Mato Pa Tryok Samsung Sam Protect Tryok Man Picheki Sa Kini Hinda correct Sigurs Samsung at Mato Lega
yeah. Okay. So then this is also really helpful advice in terms of worldly activities as well, you know, or when doing any sort of activity, undertaking any sort of endeavor, in order to accomplish that thing successfully, then it has to be done with single pointed concentration. And so if there isn't single pointed concentration, if we're not concentrated on the activity at hand, then we will make mistakes. It's possible, you know, to make an error or to do something in a way that is mistaken. And so it's really important to cultivate that single pointed concentration on many levels. And as it says in the Bodhicharya Avatara, the single, to establish the single pointed concentration of the mind is the way that we protect the mind. Meaning to redirect the mind away from the afflictive emotions and to establish a single pointed concentration.
Hola. Pate in the Norduna, Maimpan, Sanje Kunja, Lam, Maimpati, Sanje Tamji, Langateris, Yinga Lamla, Duji Chapa, Yangsona Duji Chapa level, Chapa the Karisina, Chadang, Jipesem, Dui Imbes, Dala Dawatan in the Chapa Assembly, then Digajo Tepini, Duris, then Oh, the Maimpati Ton, Data Maimpati, Kangre Gurisina. Yang Chuyang, the king imported social yores, young ye. The king imported social ranches yores. A young goyata carisna Toma mepetin, in the lower contribute tomatoes of her. Jaya de la Penang, for la Tine Yorua, Narti Gonchi, Truchi, Zuchis, and Otine Yer, Hickory. I look at Parcha Jonkin, Taparsi Patella. Yonzi la lam zo Himong Sangha la lam keeper Shirab Zoper and Bas on year the Pekar Chimbori, Telatine, the Yango. Yes.
And so, as it is said, non-distraction is the path of all the Buddhas. So whenever there's distraction, then the mind has already fallen into polarities of attachment and aversion. So when we feel drawn to or attachment toward those whom we consider to be friends, and aversion toward those whom we consider to be enemies, whenever the phenomena of attachment and aversion arises, this is the work of Mara. These are the work of the Maras. And so what is it that we are becoming undistracted upon, that we are not becoming distracted from? It is that essence of awareness that abides primordially, intrinsically, as the very essence of our own awareness, the Tathagata Garbha or Buddha nature, which all beings possess as their true essence. It is just that temporarily it is not realized because it is obscured by the adventitious defilements or the temporary obscurations. And so that is what we are purifying through the path of purification, generation. And in particular, the path of the generation stage and completion stage yogas work to purify these obscurations, in particular by purifying the 4 types of birth. Samsaric birth, the 4 ways in which beings take birth in samsara. So the 4 types of birth being a womb birth, an egg birth, a birth from warmth and moisture, and miraculous birth. And so through the practices of the generation and completion stage, these 4 types of birth and the karmic imprints of ordinary form are purified.
Hola, tate ndi kezo ni te gomya la, tambo kare gorsu mangitela. Zampata hingi de tipo chancho sendo gore, della pato rinpoche ke kare song lisina. Kezo me pe choa tunge tangs.
Chezo maybe.
Kezo sinde kerem dan zoram me pa ke tini choa ta tunge nimare de tunge ren dunya da wo yorwa. Choa. Oh, tadi mi pengaro option tangs. Apa tadi mi pengaro mo dayang dama da siura. Oh, option tangs. Tingzi mi pe deju bumbuk de. Tingin mi pa kita nga de ne ka ke magambua sijo tes. Talpa lana sotam nire pin. Ta kerem tang zoram de mena choa kare tunga romo kare sena ya tapa sola. Select to Marias.
And so to practice the generation and completion stages, we need to have always the foundation of love, compassion, and bodhicitta. And so as Pato Rinpoche says, if you do all of, act out all of the ritual aspects of the practice without the real meditation of the generation stage, playing the music and doing all of the mudras and ritual components, or if you recite the mantra without genuine meditative absorption, then this alone cannot lead to the path of the results of the path of liberation and awakening. So as no matter if there isn't single-pointed concentration or real absorption, then going through the motions, reading the sadhanas, doing all of the ritual components, playing the music, and so forth, won't cause the blessings to really enter.
Hola, tate ndi jimsi tela tene. Ye lam ki peramba ta hirap zo peramba ki zo ni de za chimbo dan ge chimbo res. Kai sena kerem dan zoram di ni la. Mang yete ye deni songyos, mang yete demba ni songyos. Kana kerem ke mang yete kunzub jumde la hwa me bas. Zoram ke mang yela ndam na konde ke chutsama tongba ni res. Ye tala demba ni songyos. Ye zo ni ke mang yete.
And so then also the path of generation and completion stage yoga is very profound. And it is actually the indivisibility, or the foundation for these is the indivisibility of the 2 truths, the 2 truths being the relative and the ultimate truth. So the generation stage being the relative truth, and the infallibility, which is the infallibility of karma, cause, and effect, or the infallibility of interdependence, and the completion stage being the emptiness, the truth of emptiness, which is the ultimate truth.
Hola, Kezo ni ke lamte karerisna. Taptan shirap. Kerem ke lamte tap dewa chimbo. Ningi ke te chigo. Pena la yab yum sin du. Yab ten nawa. Yum te tomba. Du la gomba kapsa ningi mena. La pena toonda wa gomna tini kadang me te ta hinan sa oiran den jondo. 또 닝게 요는 레지 고나 하는 정도. 데 람데 탑히니 제렘 그 람데 탑 대와 진보. 닝게 나 예담라. 보면다. 근데 조름 그 람데 시랍 똥바니레스. 다티 탑히니 데라 때네 람가 데가선 초니 조고. 미게 소남 그 초데 제렘나 때네. 근데 조야다. 미미 이히제 초데 근데 조름나 때인데 람데 탑히니다 초니 정도 정도.
And so also the generation and completion stages are really the union of method and wisdom. So the generation stage is the method of great bliss, which is the compassion aspect. So for instance, the yap is when you have two deities in union, the yap and the yum, or the male and female aspects in union. The male aspect is appearance, the female aspect is emptiness. When practicing a yidam deity, even for instance, if you have like the wrathful deities with their mouths agape and their kind of frightening countenance, if this is practiced without compassion, then the deity can become like a demon. So it is so important to understand that the deity is the essence of compassion. The deity itself is compassion. And so the path of the generation stage is the path of method. It is the path of great compassion. The Yidam deity is the essence of great compassion, whereas the completion stage is the wisdom of emptiness. So in this way, the completion stage is compassion, and the generation stage is compassion, and the completion stage is emptiness or wisdom. It also is the accumulation or the gathering of the two accumulations. So the generation stage becomes the referential accumulation or the conceptual accumulation of merit, and the completion stage becomes the non-conceptual accumulation of wisdom. So through the practice of the two stages, you are also gathering the two accumulations.
알았어. 람드니 손은 레버들 가르쳐서 끈이 더. 근데 지름 라 야미라 티네 조기코스나 롱고다 주고. 근데 조름 냠 람텔라 티네 레버들 취직고. 그래서 근데 레버 끈이 종교라.
And so the result of the generation and completion stage practices are the fruition of the two kayas. So the generation stage leads to the fruition of the rupa kaya. The rupa kaya meaning the form kaya, so the kayas of Sambhoga kaya and Nirmana kaya. And the completion stage leads to the fruition of the Dharma kaya. So in this way, the generation and completion stages also are the inseparability of the two kayas.
알았어. 이제 담보 찌름 공고라 찌름 때 가르치는 공고르세나 하마르 히바 유르와라 찌름 맹도 따바인스 하마르케 히바드 파 유리아라 니티 찌름도 고레스 베나 간도르시나 찌름 시야든 호와르 찌비 유 군종당 레버 동하 다 르게 차바단 신바 술바 순항 제와 시바 바차용야 근데 제와 두글란스레스 제와 땅 치와스요라 이름 되게 제와 시바 바차용레스 제와 두글
Chewa tang sipa.
제와 땅 치와 born died yeah
Okay.
다른 이름 되게 제와 시바 바차용야 제와 두글란도 쳐고레스 조름 되게 제와 그때니 바차용야 너르는 거니 쩐쩐이 시바 바차용레스
Zogram.
Zoram Garasina, then Chiwa. Zondora, Dondora.
So then also to practice the generation stage, this becomes the only way really to transform or purify or like the perceptions of ordinariness. So the ordinary consciousness and ordinary perception of the body is transformed through the practice of the generation stage. So the generation stage also purifies or corresponds with the truth of origination and the truth of suffering and the truth of the origination of suffering, because through the cause of suffering, then there arises the fruition of suffering, and that manifests in the form of the body upon which all of the karmic ripenings are experienced, based on attachment to the ordinary form and the presence of delusion. Then there is the suffering of that experiences all of the various karmic ripenings. So through the generation stage, birth and becoming and the karmic imprints, the subtle karmic imprints for these are purified, and it becomes the method for bringing the Nirmanakaya onto the path. Through the practice of the completion stage, then the completion stage, then the process of death is purified.
Punta Mare, Strasa, Mepachilla, Yoparis, Young Dobris, Mepachin, Napo, Casset, Dana Capo Chaya, Yomara, Young Dobris, Yeperampa, doing the young so drop, son in the Pinson, then the Yopatella, Yopang Munzi, Naisena, Semji Namna Sanje, Ni Laura, Natsola, Melong the Yore, that in his Zungi, the Toba, and a passage had to come Melonra. Unja lower to me diplomatics of Sanjing, Saint Natso. The same development in Himbo to Yupa Yenza, the La Caregona, the Melon and the Zuni Caret in the Shank. Yes, the Yupa Munzi.
So in the two Jikin Sumran Gari Sumsum Konta.
Deeper and Badune Yonso drove, the social
so in the two categories of imputed phenomena and thoroughly established phenomena or truly existent phenomena, even while some claim that the generation stage falls into the category of imputed, it actually can be said to fall into the category of thoroughly established. And this is also stated by Lord Jigten Sumgun when he says that the generation stage is thoroughly established. It is thoroughly established or truly, existent or true phenomena, falls into the category of absolute or true. And that is because it is a matter of recognizing what things, how things are in an accurate way, like recognizing what is as it actually is, as it truly is. Because it is like a mirror, like the mind of sentient beings is like a clear mirror, but that mirror is temporarily obscured by the adventitious defilements. So we cannot accurately see our reflection. If we clear away the defilements, then we actually see clearly the reflection, which is the form of Buddhahood. So it is actually that the true essence of our being is that of the Tathagata Garbha or the Buddha nature. And so the form of the Yidam deity is like the clear reflection seen accurately as it actually is.
Well, La Gomia dance, penetrating dodges and damage. Young Hondo caps and doing a Lagonia dance in the one crew caps of Pumpala Lagonias, 이와 솜 노르드나 나초 고야데 소소 다하라 고냐 드레냐미 가서 조테리스.
And so when we practice the generation stage, there are essentially three ways of doing so, of visualizing the deity. So the one being to visualize oneself as the deity. In this case, that's what we're doing, visualizing ourselves as Vajrasattva. Second is, as is done in the case of the preliminaries, visualizing the deity appearing in the space in front. And the third way is in the context, for instance, of empowerment, like we do with empowerment, to visualize the vase as the deity. And so here in this case, we are doing the first type, which is visualizing ourselves or arising ourselves in the form of the deity.
Voilà. Tan kiram tumong la kiram chini som la ho mixa rong ka ju la on chini ya chang go song be karesina namjun kiram la sarva sina pe sarpo kha sarpo gomya ta tani ta pa ta din sina la ke kujin sam chin chalok to so kare ke sarpo sia ta ini tempo gomeasin sum la jin jiram chini sumdi singa jiktin sunggu ke jiram lan chini ya changgo so ai sena ambo sancho semdo go sancho semde mena jiram la sarbo kanda gomna te mune ke la chayo yes ai sena ti ada tin tikin timpe himbuna no la jancho le zon tine sarhen ta so Tikin timpe nyembo ha koiwa
Yerere ako song
Oh,
yan
tina na.
lungchen kale songo kare
Oh,
lungchen
la
soya
sulos.
kapo.
Ya yenda ye. Tikin timpe nyembo na lo la jancho le jong tine sarking tale sancho ke sem. Bene sarwa takwa temba sen de ya changdwa. Oh, te tumo ma yemda dunga juteri. Ambo te la sancho sem ya.
That's it. Okay, and so then when we practice the generation stage, commonly there are said to be the three characteristics, the three aspects that should be present. In the Drikung Kagyu, really, actually, there are four characteristics that should be present. So the common three characteristics are clarity, so the vivid clarity of the deity. Secondly, the recollection of purity. So that means an understanding of all of the attributes of the deity, like, for instance, the crown ornament, the hand implements, all of the different aspects or ornamentations of the deity's form. What is the symbolic meaning behind them? And then third is stability, or the support of pride or stability. And so Lord Jigten Sumgön says there are four, because the first one actually is Bodhichitta. That Bodhichitta is like the foundation, because if Bodhichitta isn't present, then no matter how clear the visualization is, it doesn't actually become the Yidam deity. And so also it's, as it says in the Tekjin Timbe Ningbo, or the essence of the teachings of the Great Vehicle, that these attributes, the three characteristics, are arisen from the foundation or the ground of bodhicitta, or the mind of awakening. So it is from bodhicitta, in fact, that clarity, purity, and stability arise.
Wow. That day in the Jiram Chini Yak Tambo Tela, Rancho Sem City, Yang Cho Sem Sexum Duate Kare, Lisena, Yang Seattle, Danzin, Yang Chup City Yimpin Chupa. Sem in the same thing, Tam Jella Chapter 7 Hingi Chimbos. Oh, the Tela.
Sem Kare?
Same thing, Tam Jella Chapter 7 Hingi Chimbo.
And so this foundational bodhicitta, which is the first and foremost above everything. So the word itself in Tibetan, Jang Chup Sem, so Jang, which means like to purify. And so what it is that is purified is the mind of self-grasping. That is what is cleared away. Chup it means like to culminate or to gather or to kind of bring to culmination. And so that which is culminating or gathered to full culmination is the mind focused on the welfare and benefit of others. And Sem, which means mind, which is also the same Sim and Simchen, which means sentient being, is that this great compassion pervades all to all, like embracing all sentient beings.
That doctrine pattern the correct song is na. That the jizo tingzin yuna yangs. Darsi churang jerem dang zoram tingyen jin the shi yuna yangs. Yanda jancho sem da mandana yanda ba sancho sem da ko ti jizo the mandanas. Chunang khowar jiwe sawon les. Churpan hawan khowar la jiya sawon ma to. 남친 공방 톱을 먹기노 남바 탐진 집을 공방 톱을 팽게 말에 제름다 조름다 상초 셈다 저거 yes.
And so, as the great Patrul Rinpoche has said, even if one has the meditative absorption of the generation and completion stages, if this is not united with perfectly pure bodhicitta, then they will only become that something that perpetuates delusion and continual rebirth and samsara. It cannot lead to the attainment of the full omniscience of Buddhahood.
Voilà. Rana yi gare song risina. Jancho semdang madina sancho semde mena de madina 추인 덴베 상모자 추봉 기에테 게도 인다 가레오나 산제 공파 톱톱고 마레 페나 소 왕봉 가파나스 메소 체차나 아 줄라 동반 지포나리 톱 쳔보 요나리 가레네 베조 요 마레스 메샤차나 우추나 가레오나 베조 왕보 인제 도무지스 또 드니 소장라고도 산초 셈데스
And so also it is said that if one lacks bodhicitta, then no matter what it is, any of the 84,000 different practices of Buddha Dharma will not end up resulting in Buddhahood. Because bodhicitta is like the life force of awakening, just as though, it is the life force that powers all of the other faculties or the senses. If the life force is cut off, then no matter what forms it may be that are appearing to the eyes, for instance, no matter how beautiful, then they are not seen. So the faculties cannot function if there is no functioning life force behind it. And so in the same way, without the life force of bodhicitta, then the Dharma doesn't function in the way that is intended, which results in Buddhahood.
Yes, Betame, Dinan Gares only Sina. Jancho Sem the Layinos, La Sea the Garesina, Bomba Nita, Hingi Yermibe, Tini La, Damiba, Bunda Sancho Sem the Res. And in Gurumbo Chilla, Yikin Sojak, Jawatan. A paper lan and like Javato, Casima, Pemabondo, Penicare, the Munjingo, La Hisawa Sancho Sim Javatamji Hilon the Jackson, when Tungaji Yuna, Tawaka is. Chindo Kashi Suru Dan Do Dan Sheng Dan Bode Carabina Chohoyore, Sindama da Kado Carabina, in that Tawate, take this.
And so also in the text called Kangrapema?
Yeah.
Kangrapema. I'm so not sure how to translate that, but anyway, in Tibetan, Kangrapema. Oh, the Lotus Sutra, the Lotus Kangrao, got it? The open lotus, maybe, or so that here Yeshe Tsogyal asks, or Guru Rinpoche explains to Yeshe Tsogyal that it is really the mind of Bodhichitta that is the or no, sorry, not that comes next. Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, so that this bodhicitta, which is the inseparability of emptiness and compassion, is the real meaning of the ultimate truth of selflessness, or the ultimate truth, which is the truth of non-self, is none other than this union of emptiness and great compassion. And also, Guru Rinpoche told Yeshe Tsogyal when asked, she said, why is it that there are so many different deities in, like Tibet, we have all these different deities. And he explained that the function, the essence, the life force of all of these deities is none other than bodhicitta. So they all have the same essence. It is like the string that ties together the mala. So whether you have a mala made of a coral or bodhi seeds or turquoise, in order for it to function as a mala, to string, those beads are held together on a string. And so that string is like bodhicitta, or bodhicitta is like that string. So the speech of all of the victorious ones is the single speech of primordial awareness, or the single expanse of primordial awareness. And so again, when we practice the generation stage, we have there are the three sattvas, or sometimes we refer to them in English. That's the Sanskrit is sattva, or the three beings. So that is the Samaya Sattva, oneself meditative, arisen in the form of the deity. The Jhana Sattva, or wisdom being, the externally manifest deity, and the indivisibility of the two being the Samadhi Sattva, or the meditative absorption being.
Mangala Ukraine Kijati, so Lama Kijati, Karela, Datam, Samba, Hisamba, the Karela Kijati, I'm saying about somebody, somebody, thing in this and somebody, sitting in a hakum, those. It's in the head, thing a pem soon, our yarn. I'm take somebody, see at the top. Any Yisamba, see at the gigging, Lopo, the Quran knowledge. She owns the Matera. Couple Lopotella, one more time a time you let the call she on the Lobjan the Yomar, some system by that day, the Gagins are in she on the sort of young Sana, Yisambas, call a Mayimba, she on Lobjan Yobas. That call he on Lobjan Yona, young who you say down the true that the lecture the mena, young to the legacy Chomara. Thing in this Sambas, the 12, Mayimba, Lobjan Yopa, lecture Yoba, and the thing that Kawan donut. Doctor and Gagin, Nama Sang and thing is Nuba Sama Yore. And the Denda watching
So Gongta Ditsu Sum Sanka Yangchar Karere?
La
Sum Sanka Penadi Toma Tingizin Pedila.
thing in this Sambasia, the hotel at the certificate, La Marima, lecture. To a doctor and the doctor could lecture your.
Like certificate?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hakoso. The certificate mean natural love your sales in a city, cheat and legacy home. I got there, you're not need for Pambo Toya, you're a lobjan destin, like a thing a she, a lecture those in Yorwa. Oh, the thing in this bus, the main bar, lobjan you, but lecture you, but some sort of child, oh, 10 rand of the so you do that take it. I got that language, it's not looking for you, machine.
So one time while Drupon Rinpoche was in Ukraine, he was asked by someone who was saying, you know, I really don't fully get these three sattvas. Can you explain, you know, what really is the difference or the meaning of the, you know, the Samaya sattva, the Jhana sattva, and the Samadhi sattva? And so he came up with this analogy, this metaphor. So it's like the Samaya sattva is like a student, you know, or a pupil in school. And the Jhana sattva is like a teacher who possesses all of the knowledge and is, you know, passing all of that wisdom and knowledge to his student. And so then the student, as he is studying and training, then eventually he becomes fully endowed with everything that he has learned from his teacher, and he gets his certificate. You know, he graduates with a certificate. And so the certificate is kind of like the Samadhi sattva, meaning that now the Samadhi sattva, being the student, there he's like a person who has training and study and the certificate. And so with the certificate, he can actually, you know, go out into the world and engage in his activity. For instance, if he was studying medicine, he can actually practice medicine. And so it is what actually endows him with power, the power to engage in activity.
That in the gain the tapar gain, Lopto, the tapar Lopto Yongoma. Java ringa puni yoris consuricon. Kake gain is Lopto Yachan or the Sambasum Siatim Gotando and Dang Saris and Dongaran.
So Gawa Rigna get in that shit out Yapokuma.
Puni yoris, Java ringa tapar, Verot and the boss Chao Mare. Dodgy relative, Akobea Pombo Chandori. Nabanhamzima, the call Chandori. Lotus te Sukas Amitabachana, Ringa, Penri, Yoris, Pumbo, Rico, Yopo, Rico. Taha Koson. Yarona, Jimari, Tabarche, Pumbo, Tabarche, Yobo.
So, for instance, also in this example, it isn't as though there's always, you know, this hierarchy of the teacher and the student below the teacher. It actually can be the case that the student actually kind of becomes more qualified or develops more qualities than the teacher, like the example of the, you know, the Buddhas of the 5 Buddha families. It isn't always just one Buddha that sort of stays as the crown ornament. The crown ornaments change around depending on the Buddha family. So for instance, it's not always like Vyrochana. If you have the Lotus family, then it's Amitabha who's on top. If you have the Vajra family, it's Akshobhya who's on top, and so on and so forth. So the boss changes, you know, based on the circumstances. And so in the same way, the student doesn't forever remain a student. The student can even surpass the qualities of the student can even surpass the qualities of the teacher.
Okay. That Dodges and by Yamson, but Gabso. Nimpo top yes in the that dipam Megawat so Patsang Mazoya, the Nimpo, not so lots of Pachan to the Patsang Mazoya, the Yetshokim Bogoda, the Ambo Tainted of the Tema, Nipechan and yes.
And so, when in particular, when we are practicing Vajrasattva, it is always important that we do so with the antidotes of the 4 powers. And so these are what really give power to the process of purification. It's like very strong soap. If we are cleaning really dirty clothing, then we need some super powerful soap to get those stains out. And so the first of the 4 powers is the power of support.
Hola. Tachi druptam nandun gola. Tarochi. Chunam tamje tongba ni samdora.
Shodankare?
Kodap tambo. Chen.
10. Chunam tamche tongpani.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Chunam tamje tongba ni laura. Oh, the that. Woma zawa shirab ganangla. Gangla tongba ni rongwa. Tela jiang rongwa yin. Gangla tongni mrongwa. Tela tamje rong manjuru lao yora. The tambo.
Yamcha.
Woma zawa shirab ha goywe.
Re.
Oh, tela. Gangla tongba ni rongwa. Tela jiang rongwa. Gang tongni tena karesena ndho res. Tongni ta ha maona karesena ndho yomares. Oh. Jimsin tela tin di tara chowa chama ngola om sobawa hiya siya ta om shune da siya ta tongba ni gongo la gyora tin di tara tela ro chuna tamji khonde ke chu sama tongba ni re te so tonic tongba ni la de ma tongba tongjang la yo marida o te sa ha kwa jis.
So then we have the beginning of the self-generation beginning on page 10. So as it says, all phenomena are emptiness. So if it's, so it begins by saying, so to begin with, in the root verses of Madhyamaka, it says, or the root of wisdom, the Madhyamaka's root of wisdom, Sawashirab. Then it says, if their emptiness is if emptiness is understood, everything becomes appropriate, or everything becomes appropriate. If emptiness is not understood, if there is not under emptiness, then nothing is appropriate. It could also be interpreted as with emptiness, everything is possible, and without emptiness, nothing is possible. So then we have, for instance, the Swababa Mantra, and this is establishing the foundation, the ground of emptiness through which everything arises. And so from within the state of emptiness, all phenomena being the nature of emptiness, it is from within the state of emptiness that all empty phenomena arises.
Chun khonde ke chu chama tongba ni ste ha kon de chin wo sara hingi cha.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to say, I'm sorry. This he said the emptiness is not absolute emptiness, it's not nothingness.
Hola. Ni de chin wo sara hingi cha dewa chin bo wo sa ni hingi. Oh hingi ke cha ta la gomba ka sa hingi go la ba san chu sim. Then the Pony ta hingi ke sondon jondu Hongik din sunzila Hongik karpos te Hongik karpo jegongores.
And so as all phenomena of samsara and nirvana is pervaded by the nature of emptiness, so it is from within the state of emptiness that there arises a white hong. So this white hong is the compassionate expression of great bliss and the innate union of luminosity. So as was said, the life force of all of the deities is Bodhichitta, the union of wisdom and great compassion, or emptiness and great compassion. And so the manifest embodiment of that indivisible union of appearance or emptiness and compassion is the like clear light luminosity arisen in the form of the Hung syllable. And so we visualize that white Hung syllable first.
Tati hong the carrier is na temba la, temba la, hong the carrier, la dodgy some unity hong. Tati and duty hong ye carpola, one to dodgy may consider that dodgy some buckets. The Nikin Hor Yareka, Juma Rapting, Pemandama Tondin was it. Clatam Jig Dina Meto Pema Dali the Tras and Zipo than Yapo Mares, and the Zipo Kit Mares. Dylan Sunzi Pe Sunza turns you do. Meto Pema the Talatan Dam Zoban and Jien Kuyures. In a Koya Jet Sarakasun Talatan Damba Toba Chunikuyo Maris Petanga, Drama, Shimpo, Ben Zipo, not under Yongore. Sla say at the Horus Hemjin. Hora Dunhan and John, you're at this Hangi Savagila, for you Kuyo Mares, Dickens is Emat. The name Drumler and Chin Yaria Constatus on the him of Yama Drum say at the La Yusak and Kamba Yaria Congress. The Nitigan and a Taru sing Chapemata, Singik and Chet, and Magic Badang. Pematan, Nimakadint, Top Shirap Davakadint, Top Gordon, the Tashi is Nimatic and Marek Membasaya, Davatic and Corbett Sadon, Marek the Mok Corbett Sinjin to Marek, the Mok Maram and Tom de Nimakana, put some sour chandra, taken Nubayos. David and Corbett Sadon, that Yaga Dilitan, that things on Arizona, the Savachimboa. Oh, tell a Joviana, Silver Gold. Oh, Tinsunzi.
So the Hong syllable represents the support of the deity. That is like the manifestation of the life force of Vajrasattva, the Hong. And then there also, so from that, as it says, light streams forth, forming a canopy of Vajra flames. Within it are the elements and Mount Meru, above which is the 1,000-petaled lotus. At its heart, from the broom, appears a jeweled, boundless palace. And so there also then here manifests the celestial palace of Vajrasattva. And this lotus seed is not, it isn't just for the sake of making the visualization beautiful, but it has a really deep symbolic meaning. So the symbolic meaning of the lotus, which is like the lotus is born out of the mud, it arises from the mud, and yet as it blossoms, its petals are perfect and completely untainted, unstained by any of the mud from which it has arisen. And so this represents resolve, the resultant qualities of bodhicitta, which in arising within samsara causes one is completely unstained by the faults of samsara, the delusion and defilements of samsara. And so that is the symbolic meaning of the lotus. And then, as it says, from the broom appears a jeweled celestial palace. And so again, so we have the lotus, the sun and moon disc seats, the Hung syllable. And so the lotus and the sun disc represents wisdom, the moon disc represents method, and the sun is like illuminating the wisdom, illuminating the darkness, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. And the moon disc is like the moonlight that pacifies or cools or soothes the heat and torment of the afflictive emotions. So if you think of a really hot place, like Arizona, where the heat is kind of unbearable, you need the soothing moonlight, which pacifies, the heat of the afflictive emotions. Or soothes.
Lord, you Hong Simbarsa, Lord, the Tony Bombani. Tony ke doji hong de ni sancho sim Tony ningi. Temper sar one chu jan chu sanab du tati tini ne Tony da hingi ne wozen chu and the terasa cinema ke wozen the mares shirata hingi ke wozen chu and ya java job sanjela chepa ke sanab sordu. Wozen the marchun robert ladder mari jangs doji semper sala ku. Ni chondu yonjo rani ke lama doji semba te da doji semba gonzore. And the thing in bottom and thing the top lama doji semba siatiri.
And so then, as it says, then at its center on a lion throne, lotus, sun, and moon is a hung. And the hung, which transforms into a Vajra marked with the hung. So there arises then the Vajra as the representation of emptiness. And at the center of the Vajra is the syllable hung, which represents Bodhichitta. And then from this, light rays stream out, or the light radiates from the hung, making offerings to all the Buddhas. So the light rays stream out and make offerings to all of the Buddhas. Then it gathers back their blessings and dissolves again into the hung, and then radiates out again and purifies all the karmic obscurations of all beings, bringing them to the state of Vajrasattva. And then as the light returns the second time, I instantly transform into the Guru Vajrasattva. So in the context of the four powers, this is the first power, this arising of the deity Vajrasattva, is the power of support.
Voilà, ça c'est le cadeau carpo tene nyomon pada, thor chunje ma ba carpo konkata nyomon ba dikpa deba sama changma ju charwa. Tene shar chik te chukuchewa me ba. Tene shewala zumbas. Tene wada thorso sa ye doje thokala to yate thap dewa chi. Yempe trevaka la timba de shirap tomba ni chunji. Tene shap ni doje chetong la jong tingin jin la yowa me ba.
And so then, as it says, with white, with one face, serene and smiling, my hair is in a top knot and I am adorned with jewels. So Vajra, arisen in the form of Vajrasattva, being white in color, symbolizes being completely free from the stains and defilements of samsara, peacefully smiling. In the right hand, you are holding a Vajra to the heart. The Vajra represents method or skillful means. And then in the left is holding a bell at the hip. And the bell symbolizes the wisdom of emptiness. And then, as it says, he is sitting with his two legs crossed in the Vajra position. Dini di dorje kiltrung la chiksung. Oh yeah, this symbolizes that he is unwavering from the state of meditative absorption.
Tan Chinzang Pebze Tarara, Sadara Tarchang Chupin, Tantoyo, Mayon, Zipper, Jibujin Hinja, Kakon Doji Samba, the Lomju Zobuko in Zang, any Lomju Zobujinche, Chusum Seore, Lomju Zobujinche, Chusum, Tela Rinpoche, Jin Je, any Tarji Chegungas in Chumdun Chusum Yore. Tatel and the He Jamna, Wujin the Numon Yishila Juria, Java Renga. Then Ninjin, tennis in a pair, Bemba Ninsunza, Gurjin Semoton, Toshas in the Somur, this some to Kusum Suya. Pungjin Sadub Chabdubs in a draw, the paratus and but strong Suya. Tenite and do that tick on the Taji Chegunga, you chum dom do Chusum, you Chusum the carrot, Tumong la Carre Larisna. Some Dordians in the Sas, the Sanje Compa of Sayati. That take a young Sanje, you did some years at the
So Then as it says, I am replete with all the excellent marks and signs. I am dressed in exquisite silken ribbons and scarves, a tiara, and upper and lower silken garments. I am adorned with a crown ornament, earrings, a short necklace, a long necklace, a medium length necklace, bracelets, and anklets. So these marks and signs in the Sambhogakaya form are referring to the 13 ornaments and garments of the Sambhogakaya form. So those are the 8 jewel ornaments and the 5 silken garments. And so to briefly explain what each of these are, the ornaments of the 5 crown ornaments or 5 jewels of the crown ornament represent the 5 Buddha families, the wisdoms of the 5 Buddha families, so transforming the afflictive emotions into the 5 wisdoms. The 2 earrings represent the 2 truths. The 3 necklaces, the short necklace, long necklace, and medium length necklace represent the 3 kayas. The bracelets and anklets and armlets, of which there are 6, so 2 bracelets, 2 anklets, and 2 armlets, represent the 6 perfections or paramitas. And so altogether there are 13, so the 8 jewels and the 13 and the 5 silken garments. And so this also represents the state of the Vajra holder, the bhumi of the like 13th level attainment of or bhumi of the Vajra holder. Tindat dorje simba sa, tindat sa chu dang. So all the embodiment, it represents the embodiment of all of the enlightened qualities of Buddhahood.
Yapte ningi terwa umote shirabri de la gomba ka ningi de zo gores yapte nawa yom de tongba ne konzo de la labre te yimba yina yang ke pomo pang de wa ka le ka che yore ate te de ti ya yom si ya de tik to yon dang yi mares ko ni ta na dong song de yo ba ya o tenake chönzires ngoma rumbuga chen bochela rahiane trawatanso ta la hiwala dorje samba chola dorje prparwa dorje prpa kolo jende ma pangdos ka che par de pangore skejatiso kale rumbo sangmaje par de ka pangore sindordina sangmaje par de tapshi ya madara gore son ema to kale yora
And so the pang lapati gare.
Pang.
So pang la your butt holding. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And so here, so we have the male aspect, which represents appearances or appearance, and the female aspect, which represents emptiness. And so sometimes Drupon Rinpoche receives the question from people, why is it that it seems like the male is always the principal deity and the female seems to be secondary, like sort of, like the main deity is the male and the female is sort of like an accessory or something. And so it shouldn't be seen like that. The reason is because essentially compassion is so important when meditating on the deity. That's really, again, like the life force of the deity. And so compassion needs to set the stage. Compassion needs to be principal or paramount. So there is, and that is what the male aspect represents, is compassion. And then or appearance. So whether we say the union of compassion and emptiness, or appearance and emptiness, and the female representing the emptiness aspect. And so, of course, you know, that isn't to say that there isn't some sort of like discrimination. If you look at like the difficulty that, say, like Tibetan women endure, Oh, okay. Sorry. That's not what he was saying. I totally misunderstood. So he said that actually, like, it would be really difficult, you know, if you think about like always embracing and like carrying the woman, this would be really difficult, you know, to like constantly be like carrying the female around on your lap or something. So he said, you know, what that, so then there was some question of like, you know, how difficult to always be like in union with another person or visualizing in this way. Whereas, you know, of course, what this means is never separating from the union of appearance and emptiness. And so when Garchen Rinpoche was in Russia and explaining that, you know, the peaceful manifestation is Vajrasattva, the wrathful manifestation is Vajrakilaya, and Vajrakilaya is always in union with Korlo Gedema. And so he said, you know, the question I think was like, how long does one have to carry or hold the yum? And he said until awakening, because one should never separate from the union of method and wisdom, are always present and indivisible until awakening, from now until awakening. Tendati yapo lapa yena mena hakoma song.
La.
Na yapo lapa yena mena.
Oh yeah. Oh, tendari ndo tena ta unesena pombote pomo bote yobo da kala chama ko. Semo lande ya. Tate di yom de ko takiyama da bari tate mambo nga de tsuma do tni di pecha de ma yoryo yorwa. Oh, tera nayi margonte tenje tota lama doji samba yayom. Ni ba tele nivje sunji beto sosu dati doji samba yom tana sande. Tani ti sosu huma diba mge wa kare se ya na te chama semto ni te nga te nondo ke dupo te se sine tani sosu jeba ta ngocha ta jikta. Ito ni tani te sosu semto leng. 다 선바데 다장한 땡후마 노송세 기본도 후마 개치야데 마옹발라메지와데 하르젤 뉴바데 개침보리데 하르젠 주샤데 개침보리데 개치규데 신체 domsem레스 땅에 신체데 데가 두갸던데 세게멘 후마 마신데 세 카키 히긴데 세게데 논도 세게멘 신네 니 Ambotinje do niba nibze sun jimbeto sumbatala lar dombeto ngita mongpartanda dugya sige men sia yepatala tining se ya ya ta hyakpa ngo chanji kan yuba hyakpa sige tarati de nibo top jite palo jamne te yunge tenga ta te rike tsura sa mari tin te yu o te ga yang tana zero cheers.
And so then we have, so first this the visualization of the deity, the male and female in union, representing the inseparability of method and wisdom. This then becomes the power of support. So then there is secondly the power of remorse, or the power of regret. And so once you have this clear visualization of the deity as a power of support, then you turn your mind toward a feeling of remorse or regret for all of the negativities, the wrongdoings, the errors that we have done, both knowing and not knowing, doing. And so to really feel a sense of deep remorse, feeling ashamed of the things that we have done that are not in integrity, being afraid of the ripening of or the fruition of those negativities, then giving rise to a sense of deep remorse is the second power, the power of remorse, which is very, very important. But in addition, and even more important, once we have given rise to deep remorse, then we have to give rise to the power of resolve. And the power of resolve is like the utter commitment to ourselves that, into Vajrasattva, that we will not repeat the same errors going forward, that whatever negativity and wrongdoing from this point on, we will not repeat. We will not engage in them going forward. And that is the power of resolve. And then, the jipa, the simpa. And so then the confession, the actual practice itself, and is the applying of the fourth of the four powers, which is the power of the antidote. And so in really making, going through the practice with the full confession, applying the four powers, then this itself with the recitation of the mantra becomes the power of the antidote. And so these four powers, we don't have so much time to really go into them in great detail, but you all have these handouts that have been given to you with each of the four powers explained there. So please read those and become familiar with them.
Hola, so that in andara continue fixer. Last on the Tambo Sancho Symphony, Lama Dorjes and Bate, Servo Gongore, Sarpo Magona, Soratan, Niba Lepto, Pen. Parchedan Parjang Yabo de Nubona, you do not telepe Conchi Moranda, to Cabana Pajaya, that Rasali. The Sarogom. Sarogom Saljita, Dodges and Becujin Charles, Tabata, the Rasa, Zippo and Zippo Mayan, but really Jim Sinton to Hendayo, but yes, Lodger Trevor, Tajin Chetu, Sama, Sarah, Tabata, Dins. Penite Dodges and about the Gomba Caps. You could chantona, you chose Gom Yogan and the Goma, pay Tempo, Yansi, Tempo Squam, or Tempo Magona. Any anti could dego, and do Tini gets angry at there.
So then essentially as you practice, please do so like making sure that all of these four attributes of the generation stage are present. That means first the aspect of bodhicitta, as the very foundation of your practice, and then also really making a point to cultivate the aspect of clarity. So, visualizing clearly Vajrasattva, arisen as the deity, as the essence of the Lama, white in color, and all of the ornaments and attributes really vivid and clear in your mind's eye. And so really striving for a really clear visualization, but then also not just having the visualization be there without any real meaning. So to also make sure that incorporated in this is the recollection of clarity, so that you really understand the meaning behind each and every of the attributes. What is the inner meaning of the Vajra, of the bell, of each of the ornaments, and so forth. So really incorporating that reflection on the symbolic meaning, or the recollection of purity, and then also to make sure that your visualization, the generation stage, becomes really stable, so that you apply yourself again and again in the stability of the visualization, so that it isn't like sometimes you're there with it and then you just completely space out and lose the practice, lose the visualization, but that you really again and again make an effort to cultivate the generation stage, so that it becomes really like something you can hold with ongoing point continuity with single pointed concentration so that it becomes very stable. So as you practice, and it's important to practice in such a way that these four characteristics are present.
Voilà. 저 그때 딜라시도 창창 창도 다들 아니 힘봐 내봐 하세야 돼 개체 보리 근데 드탑 힘본다고도 나들 근데 make 롭장세 타마 대신도 힘본다고도 되니 소수 장조 되게 밀 파로 파시 소소소 라차라야 참게 힘봐 나들 이 나들 다 힘마게 힘들이나 예시요 년바 Never himpa, drupa, drupchins and yayo. And Nyempa, never himpa, drupa, drupa chimbo. Oh, Yate song yana.
So the chikoma song mila ropa chea lag te yaboko.
Juran Lobjang Tsar, Lobjang Tsar Gabso. 저런 딜레가 에듀케이션 가르스나 되게 디토니 레가시 히어로아 되게 파 밀라 로바시 히어로아 저런 doctor 롭장스나 doctor 그 밀라 민트 샤피탄 로바시 히어로아 아고소 저 코란 라샤트 다티 레가 되니 저 코란 토야다 되니 토호요로아 난 롭장스 사이언스 되게나 파 밀라 핀토 말이 저 소소 라차로 라고 말이다 하 세야 되게 그 방우스 Lalin to yat, Pamela Pinta yat, Sorsola, Obia, Samatinisigo, nothing.
Okay, lesson. So then when it comes to the recitation of the mantra, so the mantra recitation has different stages. Also, there are different stages of accomplishment which achieve the different activities. And so that it is important then to engage in the activities, like somebody, for instance, who goes to school and studies. And then once they have graduated and they have their certification, they are equipped to go out and help others, to do whatever work or activity that they have been trained to do. Like a doctor, once a doctor has their degree, then they go out and they, perform surgery, or they, heal people, they help people by prescribing medicine and so forth. They practice medicine, but to just to gain your degree and then just to sit there and not do anything, then defeats the purpose. So there has to be the active engagement in applying what it is that you have studied, that to really putting the degree that you have earned to good use, actually engaging in the activity. And so that is what is done with the different stages connected with the mantra recitations. And so we have the different stages of approach, a near approach, accomplishment, and great accomplishment, these four.
Olas. Tate the tambo yingro de pesau gom. Then a mejina da worshipa. Then pesabo gom char giso. Then kale tisukora jan. Mete tambo wash. Then ibatalan revacha. Sumba la nimba nivan himbas. Drupa siditini pe ta neo can revacha. When it dripchin siditang one trobo pe masidikita za chimo to the cha. Dripchin sidita nagan soso chibana to the cha. Hotel ha gom gasitini pe tambo ha the sao gom nibatel te and for. Sumbatel then pe hokimo for then holkasini was it to honor. Then it telatine Yas Angel and Chupaden, Harksio, Nala, Delaure, Shiba Ye, Sanje, Tambo, Hart, Lying ba, Nipa, Hart, Chupa in ba, Sumba Hart, Dripjon ba, Yiba Hart, Sanap, Udubin ba, how hard Telatin, Lega Sama. Yes.
So first then, in connection with this, we visualize the seed syllable very clearly. And so then this this stage is like, so that's the approach, like getting to approaching someone, recognizing them, becoming familiar. And then little by little, the mantra garland starts to turn. And then this becomes like, once you have been introduced to someone, you get to know them, they've approached, and then you start to gain familiarity, you start to become connected. And then third, accomplishment is like when you really become well acquainted, you become like good friends. And then great accomplishment is like where that person becomes such a close friend, it's almost like you become the same, you become like inseparable. And so that is like what first, there's clarity and of the seed syllable, the mantra starts to rotate, and then it starts to rotate stronger. And then, as it's rotating quickly or more strongly, then light rays stream out. And so there are different purposes that the mantra fulfills, or meanings in the mantra. So there's the mantra as the deity, there's mantra as offering, there's mantra as like the purification of defilements, and mantra as blessings and the generation of attainments or cities.
Hola. Teniti yige jate, chito tamba regja, yorwa shiva yipchi sheni, cho ngap jung abjesine.
Shiva Gatse?
Yipchi sheni 42.
42? Oh, yeah.
58 together, 100 yorwa. Ike sawon res. Then the tunda tantanang mundo nani. Palo janate yuta. Chatang do chang chipa this chepa yonama to 30 things on the jat sumadoa. What is 0 yes?
The Parnanga.
So
the Vajrasattva is the embodiment of the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities. So that is what he represents, the 42 peaceful and the 58 wrathful deities. And so he is like this is the seed of all of the 100 deities. And so you all have an image that has been given to you. And so the par tongne gare. So all of the meaning of the mantra is there, in what has been, the what has been passed out to you. So you can look at that and become familiar.
de leka chama se sawaji latni durum to gora ishodo gachino yeram de chama drum na ta drum sina de go is Tani durum de tana pecha koran do tan do je samba rang la tem na si you think
Page 17.
17. Oh, 17. Oh, tene to 17. Tati ko tana koran mandrke ya po date jorge jori teni me kada ngang la ya si de teni durum sine semgne lo ngang la ya teni ka che de ta lar yang do je sembo ko lang lam de tati dadang siate ta durum te chewa ke sipa pa kha joya indu na cho namba ke shen me ba cha man do ba yang cher jewa le ora den chu de sem rama ngane yo ro yan nam do le ngora o den de jewa jima la tene pa she cha bi de yang cher jewa le ya la ni do je sem ba na ji shirap ta ni ji ten ra ji yo pa chi lo te jewa le ya ka pa cha yo ya tang nga cho tana cham le ya ka cham le de ba ka so Tani karasi hewa dewa jambo tanda yorwa sa de kyolam kapsu pechu tongo leka siya dan nama tan rondo kapsu tendi di kapsu trempa tan shikin doje sempa siya ta trenshiri o te tan mandarwa ngani tani di susu nyamni te pechu tawa tongo res o te la kwa nye yore te res
And so then after we have performed all of the activities with the recitation of the mantra, then there is the dissolution. So the dissolution, which appears on page 17 and is very clear in how it is written. So visualizing yourself as Vajrasattva, the wisdom being, sorry, that's explanation. In the end, the Vajrasattva visualized in front dissolves into me. Also, Vajrasattva appearance and existence melt into light, which dissolves into the universe and beings, the protection sphere, the elements, the boundless palace, the throne, and the implements and ornaments gradually dissolve into the Lord and Lady. Then the Lord and Lady melt into light, which dissolves into the Vajra and mantra garland, then into the Hung, and the Hung into the Nada, which is released into the state of non-conceptual primordial purity. So then you rest in the state which recognizes the true nature of awareness, where you remain within the recognition of the true nature of mind for as long as you can. And then when you arise again, you reappear in the form of Vajrasattva. And so what this does is, as the generation stage purifies the imprint for birth, for ordinary birth, and the completion stage purifies the death process, and then re-arising or appearing again as the deity purifies the future life, the next, like the continuity of the next life. And so as you arise again in the form of Vajrasattva, and then this is the union of method and wisdom, so the karmic imprints for birth, death, and rebirth are purified. And then as you stay in retreat, if you're practicing in retreat, then in your sessions, you're cultivating the samadhi or the meditative absorption. And in your path of activity, you're also continuing the practice as you, like you're using your practice to by carrying it into your post-meditation activities, mainly by sustaining mindfulness and awareness, never separating from mindful awareness. And practicing, sustaining the visualization of yourself as the deity.
All fine, Yoni, Tamba Somnan, Yong Hoa Tamba, Sayora. They gave it about the Se Mondrova, La Mondrova, Goni Gondom, Pevar Seattle, and Yong Hoa Tamba, then the Peshachi, so soon Jolan and Corson, the Komala, Shun, Lando, Pond, Centra Yorova. Ngô khang ta tỉnh sang ngô khang lại chỉ đại chỉ mà đang ngô khang ya na pa ya na ngô khang ya na ya na cái này có làm mình rồi ya xem tham mỹ lịch là đào ra là tích sa cái là gọi khép sang tích sa
Oh yeah, good, khép sang
ngô khang ya mà tôi tỉnh sang ngô khang càng chăm in đồ đó đấy dập dập có sao tên đâu rồi tên hoa sẽ được cái chuyện bộ mà lại ba cái hoa tâm hoa lắm sẽ cái chân được cái giật sai mà lại ba cái Hong Relan to Gom Chin Tang Sen Choa Jur Jimda Ni Na Gom Yam Ni Sinya Ta Tela Ropa Sini. Tani Ten the Sangyam Put Your Tembre Yores, Tembre Jim Pong Hoa Yes, the Datana Chucho Tsung Kin Tang Tela Jimda Sin Kin Tama Sangyam Put Yaw, Tembre Yores, Tembre Himpot, Moatam, Monam Rela, Pena Chucho Mena, Yamni Sisamado, Yamni Kaches and the Sonam Sayata, Big Drip Jangori, Telatina. And so at
the end, then we want to apply the excellence of dedication. And so by practicing dedication, this ensures that whatever roots of virtue that have been generated cannot be lost or exhausted. And that they actually continue to expand and increase. So it's like, for instance, if you have a bunch of money, you don't want to carry that money around in your backpack because it's possible, that it will be stolen or lost. So there's a lot of worry if you're carrying your money around in your backpack. But if you put it in the bank, of course, these days, maybe we're also, maybe some people are afraid of trusting banks. We can't really trust banks. But if you put it in a really good bank, a bank where you're sure to get a good profit, then, you're really choosing wisely, then that money is invested, and then it just increases. It won't be lost or exhausted, but will actually increase because you will generate a profit. And so Milarepa also speaks of the importance of dedication, and that, there is the auspicious interdependence between the meditator and the one who is helping the meditator. And that which creates the link and that auspicious connection is dedication. And so it is through dedication that both the benefactor and the practitioner, the merit becomes inexhaustible for both of them. And so this is how it always is. We're always in connection and relationship with one another, both those who provide the service or the assistance, creating the conditions for practice, and those who are also doing the practice. For instance, all those who have contributed to the Dharma Center. Without a Dharma Center, there's no place to practice. And so when there is this place for practice and people come together and practice, then the merit that is accumulated, both together, those who are the benefactors or those who have supported the center and those who are practicing, work together or experience the benefits together of purifying the obscurations and gathering the accumulations. And this is also why it is so important to perfectly attend to the dedication.
Japin che long se attending a long de Yopon don't you come on a zopa gonro jetta and to zopa the tundra tujichi. Not our big chok jabson to ganga date. Long da here.
So that concludes the teachings. And so he said that, as is sometimes said, often the teachings assume the form of a snake, like they have a big head and a little tail. Yeah. And so, he started off going really slowly, but then had to sort of speed up and quickly finish. And so, in any case, thank you everyone for your patience and diligence. And now he will also give you the transmission, because as it is important to have the empowerment, the teachings, and also supported by the transmission, then it will be beneficial to also give you the transmission. So please continue a little more with your patience, and he will recite the transmission. He'll go through the recitation quickly of the text.
Okay. So I'm thinking because Lord Jason Bassage to the Yoso. Chunata Domani was an ingator on your Hoyabola, 100 or Jamaicano, Joa, the Pimana never do Yariakan, the Resin, the Pimadani, the Hongan, the Honka, the Baza, 100 and Joe, Jen up the Robert, the mother of the Sarah Sunday on your Gage, Rani Lama, Roger, Carboja, Water, and changes. I Doja to Carto in better work that they can use the Zang, Pezet, and Jeto, so that you pay the Virginia Jungle Genda, some other than to hear the Devon and Jelly, but Pondo Doja, Maka, to Lanzo to do the Sajan and Jay of the Balon, the Hamajo, Honda, King, I need to bring on to the Sina to Papi Madavet and Doja Capotina, but they were the one and the Pohita. Just an entry the Japan, you know, because not the Lama, and you Chijan, what is language of Monkunjing and Tenaka doesn't do other you do something hungry, he Robert Joe, better Samaya Manapala, and better members of the members who came. Anarato members was the member and the circumstance of Kiran Goro, ha, Hobanga Sato, the Bamas, Sato, on better Sato, Hong. 本没东北啊，北马大北今天的中年本把一类跟的正所谓北的等多的什么的下界三年多真的你妈用当年不是叫龙标做鬼茶楼也接中有看我身把土个的今天的多的红的一个关哈界土就个外个了自己把本把用所看我就那么对什么叫那么就是这个错了他们就基本我那个新年没接他们讲我什么的。甚至根据对接受的什么大概的工作，他就拉美沙拉当的说红军不就跑上研究龙阳的对吧？就被应啊的逻辑是没根据动作这面等各他们当然在玩你们这么就没得在中交来把做应的中交的就用这把方个什么不中都就上面吧。估计都在这把没中当个给龙啊已经特别的慢慢的就是门前这边那些这样的就是拿到个那都都是看到都关注，该要把个知道边听到我红就那个到往都叫他们什么。让拉的那是有一定的生活就话也可能不仅那样是也有一个那点红那点样红了红成那的本命没搞当的也来对什么个了啦，去个工作弄个多就是这个长多人个了别都讲这把都说的都是那这经过恰到都就是别的那些作家要的些那么比嘛搞完了说的是那我这人对当你今天都就是点就这没在海了个多这点都是不说的是那我这中国工作嘛真看多但真的就说咱这就是咱这就都说就是说的是那我这说完的说我这那你说几百件那么就接着还真的现在有这些点那个就。说到公浪的公办文就公办顿就的说，让个生活这不就那么对什么早早早晚上最近那么别的什么的，那么到时你那么别的你不来就那么对什么就那么说就，大年回去就这把这生意跟着这把生意嘛的，那么这生意我那个温度那这这东西，这把咱把别的当牛郎那就睡觉谁见的说那婆家那边东西有个也能当个上头见到就点就这么的把这见到了也那没那也让见到什么不行个。就是大半年嘛，他有那个种开这么多了，多些什么我们淘宝的说，要他们两个都帮了，你他妈是也没让你们那个红衣嘛，不是完了，白是完了呢。说的就是把他们的马都学了红牌，什么意思嘛？我这边咱北门这边国家马都学了，是吧？这学了红这什么意思？一切都是就让两个都帮了，想叫你也没看到去。经过龙就不送走，这么来没在那弄完了，这边没拿都说那咱们家那块工人没在，跟把这边的那个领导红马没到，红马到，红马不领导，没在沙巴上那看，我妈现在这样没在沙巴那搞完去那当不了，你那真的就我这这边那么多年没一个都是把人家这种黑的对我这边。就讲就是那那什么东西什么，我真的有那个讲就要那么多要搞不要这个，我都说你谁对这个也没懂，可能有你这些地方这边这些节奏是的，基本都要那这边就讲个节奏什么的，这边也没帮助你们基本上。这都就是样的，用这样的把弄到那么久，这应该那今天讲讲我不可能就是那个光了，乱印的见到就你们就把这见到推荐是有时候就是买推荐你完的叫一个没得蛮脏帮我一个什么家子就把那个弄。दिखे तो साथ तेरा नाम सुना जम तोले तो नंगा तले इके जंचु यो जम तो तो ना सारे ना के जरो मसा ये बतो से जने जम बाना बिना बस सवा ता ना ता समा योगे से तो अंगुर में तो सदा आगम में बिना नहीं शब्द पंजा हो जो होंगुर तो जैसे ता ये ता दे सो को जब बेटे बोला मत सन ये जो जन में तो ता में सदा अंग तो सवा ना मंगल कम तो ये से में बाबे बजे जो जो दो तुम चुया मो ना मत सन में महा बे मत ता ता भले दा खाओ तो ये दे तो और बानी में तुम जो ये बाजे मारी जो दे दे बाजार में जो में जाना तो नहीं में मा सका 大能干的他妈他这本早红梅学这个定律到底当归这个一百多三十民都是没多拿多你没多真正多见你们这三十多见什么老多个变多的多见个不对我当然红的有两这咱们白的这个白样的东家的也能那你就不能就是那的那么也但你不能讲的那就从国家真的也的。对当个的为了没那就多就什么狼啊一了吧，就是多就什么样要就多干们就被学就多就也咱们就这样就搞。啊，那红色他妈的还就可能挖过挖来，我是谁对吧？那谁不就你要就是这个，他们这一些把那都是这用什么的吧？另外也就能接着能就接触到那个垃圾东西个地方，就说这样就这样那把它开那个那时候就那这个垃圾，那长大是几点？搞送这开就他们就他们这那红色那怎么长大？俺爸爸咱搞个咖啡，我也都觉得也等着都觉得个就前期的说他就别的啥都阿妈人这的说话，红棍节上就没有人说的有一些地方们的这样都是么当好像好像这样的。一般去面去办不那么这里面别个那不嘛当这年边有多节，或者是有多嘛我这边办了就是说个上面当这年边都是现在有些那个去这个要当学完当这年都就是现在也没得。我牛当吃完的人家有东西，一些东西是让我们热了红酒红，那面看看嘛，那都么红的面来，这边那边那是，我想这面就这样的时候就应该是现在你没当的用就那种啊红红的出来一些，走在那都用就那种嘛都是那，今后的你就我们在啥都什么样的把那个都那么那个我们这嘛什么看的在这不知道后头没在那啥把一来，那你们这边做你两个这几百下子说进去不要。 Samaya Shude Honkin original Japan Jundikin, the Marikan, the Mari, the Honana, the Betuan, the Yikimbo, the Bajajam, the Maraya, Pike Mansara, Kimner at the Kahim. Yeah, on your Barjakan, Laduna, the Solang, the Jivian, the John, the Malina Kayam, and the Manakan. The country just under the little wasn't in the middle of the children, but those on the song you can begin as a young. So I am those Mogala, this Mondragon, on the Smith, and the Yo, Benza, and the Uncle Chanta, down to Hojo to Dan doing generation reverse Pope, they don't Sanjila, but Joe, the Tariaka home by Pire Pertaka, Patapa home by the Naraka, head on home, Omar the Hills, the show the home, Basoba. Tomala better than the Sendela is on the Janakia, number 10 page. Okay. Oh, send okay, finish. Thank you. Lots of Tuji chip, Yabo. Gale Japson, non term mambo John de la Gonda, Chilacale, lots of Sunqa showing that.
Kapar.
Yamjona Kitape, Mambo, Saramaton Mambochi. And the Samala Zupa and Tundula Tuji chip, the Peta Chimbo and Yabondo, and around Topsata, the botching them, top song one that tree that is so. The botching the Peta Chimbo, so don't around Pegao, Segnon, Tund the Patens of Payabondo. Changing Gil and Yonta to go to a hungry makes angry chandora. Dodges and Daketa, the Dev Jansen, only the Jamarite. In the summer, attached the two cheers.
So thank you everyone in Tashi Deleg, and a special thanks to all of the translators. Thank you very much for all your efforts in translating, and thank you everyone for being patient and diligent as we went over a bit with the time. And also this sadhana, this practice is a really beautiful, profound sadhana. Drupon Rinpoche says he received the empowerment teachings and transmission from Garchen Rinpoche, all from Garchen Rinpoche, and he really loves this practice. It is concise, the words are very meaningful. So now we can break for lunch, and hopefully you're not hangry, a combination of hungry and angry. But since all of Vajrasattva is purifying all of our defilements, and you're probably not angry, so we can enjoy lunch together and see you all in the afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, come on,
So we like to thank Drupon Rinpoche and also Virginia Ben and the Vietnam, the translator, all the translator. If with all the translator, we cannot understand. So really appreciate your translator, your time, and benefits for all the students. Also, we like to thank Abulama.
Because I'm from Amitabha. Dankeschön, Baila. Cheers. No hungry? We just have to make everything. happiness